Welcome to Walk It Off's midweek happy hour hang. We are here on a Tuesday or Wednesday. My gosh, I'm not the one on vacation. I still can't keep track of time. We are here to talk about sports in the middle of the week because there's just so much that happens every week. These are your hosts. I'm Dave, and we've got Drew, and we've got Tim from New York joining us today.
Look at that. The mysterious Tim from New York fills in every now and then. Look, the veil of secrecy is lifted. It's my brother here. And we are ready, man. It was fun getting on there Sunday night, giving you a little bit of a night off. But, man, we did not get through all the transactions of the week. Not even close.
How could you? It was a fervor of it. But I always love hearing y'all on the air, whether I'm there or not. We have not done it. This is our first time doing this, all three of us. So I'm really excited about that. We've got the full vibe of those who have hosted Walk It Off the most all in one place. It's a special day. And you guys, I don't know if this is a spoiler also, but you're not in your normal climate or your normal geography right now.
What? Are you sure?
Unless you got a really awesome Zoom background.
It comes with all those birds chirping, too. It's real high tech right there. But no, we are checking in from vacation because we just wanted to talk sports with you, buddy.
Well, I missed you, and that's not an understatement, so I'm really glad we're able to get this in. Thank you for taking the time while you guys are out trying to hike and drinking what I see are delicious beers there. So tell me, man, where are you guys at? What's been happening?
I don't know if you can tell, but right behind Tim here, this glowing mass of light with a better webcam, you would see
Tim's halo.
Mountains as far as the eye can see, man. We are here in the Great Smokies on the North Carolina side. So we're here from North Kakalaka.
I love it.
Chilling on the porch on a rainy day, got no hiking in, spent the day at the brewery, and hooking up the laptop to get some sports talk in because we're following these updates, NBA transactions, free agency, jumping in there. Look, we tried to give you a tough time on Sunday, not knowing after Chris Paul opted out, but congratulations, you've got your point guard back until he's 42 years old?
Not far. I think it puts him at 40 or 41, right? But the way he's playing, he takes care of his body. He's definitely a Steve Nash. Well, that's not a good example. a potential Tom Brady like character. So anytime somebody raises their game at 36 years old, you've got to think that without many visible physical deterrents or deficiencies that you might expect, you got to think that there's something he can bring to the table for at least 4 years.
I mean, you had to bring the band back together after a season like that. Phoenix didn't really have much of a choice. He was such a perfect fit, such a perfect guide for that young team to take that next step. Maybe it's the best they could do instead of having him opt into that $44 million option, just spread it out over a couple more years.
I'm concerned he's doing too many State Farm commercials.
I know.
Might not be focused on the game as much, but no, especially like they say, game is so close. He has to have that drive. He first time ever in a championship. Now he's going to even probably work even harder than he ever has more in the offseason. He has a comfortable team. Doesn't have to integrate to a new team, which is a huge thing for him. Because you always hear he's got a different leadership style, not so easy to adjust to.
Great point.
But they really, young players, Ayton, they really took to his leadership style. And another year of that, another 4 years of that, really helpful.
God, those poor kids if Chris Paul takes his workouts to another level.
I know he's going to be running the next Space Jam and nobody's going to like him. But that's a really fantastic point. I mean, it's really a win-win for both the team as it's currently composed and for Chris Paul. He's never been at this point. He's never been at the point where he's been that close to a championship and can run it back. And with a team that, and maybe I'm biased because I saw a different angle here in Phoenix, but a team that had pretty spectacular chemistry and what I think was one of the variables that pushed them to that level, even beyond talent and depth and those things. So it was by far the best option for the Suns to do in free agency. And I mean, and I think for the development of that whole team, which when you have a point guard and your star, number one star, arguably, but I think pretty safe to say, who is not long for this league, you've got to have some good plan to develop players, and that means keeping the coaching staff together and keeping the players together the best you can, and keeping leadership like Chris Paul in the same spot so that those guys can grow, because in 2 years, there's a likelihood we're not going to be with Chris Paul. There's a likelihood that we're going to be moving on to somebody else, and it's not going to be campaign because I just don't think he's built for that. It'd be great to see him grow that direction more, but there's going to be somebody else that has to step into this, and we've got to have the development and the foundation and the culture like the Heat do, and we'll talk about them today too, I'm sure, to keep moving in that direction.
I like it. I like what I saw there. It's a compromise. I'm sure while both sides are happy, both sides also are a little bit unhappy. I'm sure the Suns didn't want to give 4 years to Chris Paul where he's at right now. But that's what you got to do to retain sometimes. Not everybody can be. I know we're cheering you up with this, but we'll get straight into it. Not everybody can be the Lakers and somehow fill out a pretty solid bench.
Yeah.
After what looked like they were tapped out of money after trading for Westbrook. How do you get a guy like Kendrick Nunn to come there that cheap, young talent?
Yeah, and Malik Monk.
Horton Tucker resigning.
Yep. I agreed. I don't know how they did it. That's still a funky lineup, let's be honest. But it's definitely overshadowing all these vets and all-stars and stuff are definitely overshadowing big value pickups like Nunn and getting Monk over there. And they still have Anthony Davis in that space. So that kind of hard reset is probably the best you could expect from LA. But I don't know where they're going to land. I mean, what do you guys make of that roster now coming into this next season?
We did a lot of talking about this on Sunday, but I think they're a total crapshoot. I think it'll be fun to watch personally, because I don't think there's any baseline they had a pretty good season. They're either going to be at the top or it's going to be an absolute shit show with not much in between.
I don't think it could be that bad just with the talent level alone. They're going to be a good team in the West. I don't think there's any way around that.
You saw LeBron's first year with the Lakers.
Yeah, but look at the talent around him now. Just
big difference.
Just talent.
Yeah.
There's Russ is older. There's older talent too. AD is a game changer, but can he stay healthy? The only reason that was the injury is really that they were out of it this year. So I just see them adding talent. I was saying Russ should come off the bench and just do whatever he wants to do, and just get all the rebounds, get all the points, just be the ultimate microwave player off the bench.
But
now
that.
with all the recent signings, I can't see that happening.
I like
when
that.
You've got your 1 years like your Dwight Howard's bringing back, and all those miscellaneous pieces and ring chasers. That's what you expect. But then, I was surprised to see them being able to hang on to sort of a rising talent like Talon Horton. I was kind of surprised to see young players who are fairly highly regarded, like Kendrick Nunn or Malik Monk, who actually had a good year last year.
Yeah.
And is exactly what they need, just a lights-out shooter if he's on his game.
Yeah. There's that, and I think it's because of that it winds up being a crapshoot, because those guys have to develop in a system that, tell me if I'm wrong, but they haven't really been developing talent. Like that hasn't been their system. No, there isn't.
Russ, those are two of the legendary ball carriers of our time.
Yeah, so they've got to do something that they haven't done in a long time, and I think that's going to be key for them really succeeding. I agree with you, Tim. I don't see how this team, barring a ton of injuries, which by the way is on the table. Sure. Like that could totally happen for this team. You got a lot of miles on a lot of those legs out there, and people like AD who is likely to miss some time just on average, and hopefully not in critical times for them, but that could really throw them off balance, because this team I don't think is going to be built to survive with some of the major pieces missing and just LeBron on the court again. I'm frankly, I don't want to, Drew, you and I talk about this a lot, especially around Russell Westbrook. I don't want him to be considered, a virus. I don't think he is. I don't think he's an unmanageable bad teammate, but he's not Chris Paul. He's not somebody that finds a way to unite, even if Chris Paul can divide sometimes. He's not one of those guys that the team's going to rally around and create a whole culture around. And frankly, LeBron hasn't done that either. So I'm worried about how the team's going to gel. And that still means if everybody's healthy and playing, they've got the talent to succeed. But when things start going awry, just like they did last year, I can see them just straight falling.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's volatile because I look at Anthony Davis, and he's probably the best player on that team right now. But he's got two guys who are going to be the ball handlers, who are basically black holes with the ball in their hand for most of the time. Is he going to be happy with that, especially if he's got some nagging injuries or something? It's an interesting situation. I mean, I could see them winning the championship next year with this lineup if LeBron and or Russ embrace that potential as kind of an off-ball player and slashing and really working. You know, they'll have the spacing if they need to work with it. But I can also see them not gelling and Davis just sitting there and LeBron and Westbrook running into clogged lanes over and over again all season.
They're probably going to be the favorites according to Vegas, I would think. I would assume that they're probably the favorites, but they're also chasing a Suns team now.
Yeah.
And the Suns are basically running it back. You know, a lot of chemistry there, a lot of team chemistry built up. Where the Lakers have to find that now. They have to really need a preseason and practices and lots of time to find out how they're going to play, what style they're going to use.
It's a great point too, and that's just added into the whole craziness of the Western Conference, which I don't know what to make with teams like San Antonio having, losing like some of their major players like DeRozan, but Utah is still going to be there. You know, they just re-signed Mike Conley. That's huge. That's the same idea with the Phoenix Suns bringing back Chris Paul. You know, Denver with Jamal Murray coming back is going to be something to mess with. And the real variable, I think, are the Clippers and finding out what happens with Kawhi through here, because you think that based on precedent, one of those four teams at least has an argument to be favorites over the Lakers. But that puts 4 or 5 teams in the top tier there that you could argue are favorites to come out of the West, which isn't new, but it's still nuts, especially with as strong as the East has gotten recently.
Yeah, you haven't even talked about the defending champs yet.
Yeah. I forgot who those are.
Or our Memphis Grizzlies, who we were hoping would be making some moves to kind of jump up into that class of top-tier contenders. I mean, there might be some Grizzlies back here. I'm not sure. But
on your label.
Yeah, some Grizzlies on this beer. But I'm not really sure there's been very little movement for the Grizz so far this offseason. It's been kind of shocking to me that they haven't really tried to add and try to take that next step forward. I guess basically banking on having a full series of Triple J healthy, more development from John Morant. Maybe locking onto somebody like Bane, who's basically their star of Summer League right now.
Yeah, I've been really surprised with that too. I mean, frankly, I haven't even heard them in many of the rumors moving around, but you've got to think, I mean, we've said for the whole year that they're one of those teams that is on the cusp, and you've got to kind of bet on the majority of that lineup at this point. The only thing that I can see being a worthwhile investment, which I guess they can hold on, but there were some decent ones out there, is bringing in some veteran help, just to help guide a team. Look for chemistry guys, locker room guys, guys that you can depend on to play quality minutes, but will help groom this team that you think has gelled over the last couple of years, but there's been a lot of roadblocks. They're a hard team to read just because of Justice Winslow coming in and not really clicking with the team and
big swing and miss there.
A big swing and miss. And maybe that's something that can still pan out. I don't know. There's a lot going on with that team that is just hard to figure out at this point. But the potential is there.
They have a superstar. I mean, Ja is getting to that level. I mean, maybe not quite yet, but he's like, as far as marketability in ESPN games, you're going to be
real. What will Ja do next?
But also just being a superstar level basketball player. Like, are you? But the Grizzlies they're an interesting team. Like, what's a great season for them? Is it a 4 seed and home court advantage? Is that like a huge victory this year? Or are they expecting to? I mean, what levels are you trying to, they're a playoff team. I think that's certainly the case. Like that would be a bummer of a season if they don't make the playoffs. But what is their, like, are they happy just making the playoffs, or what are they trying to be? Are they trying just to develop their young talent? Is that a win season? It's a tough team to kind of see what their end goal is.
That's been a lot of our talk with them, is they have made that step to being, like you said right
Playoffs.
there, a playoff team.
Yeah.
A team you expect to be in the playoffs now. But that next step is even tougher, which is being a legitimate title contender. And personally, I don't think they made any progress towards that next step this offseason.
But could they have? Like, was there a move that, go get this guy, and then that bumps you up,
You got to think with just the level of depth they had, with the draft ammunition that they were able to put together, it really felt like they were building up to a big move. And maybe it's still out there somewhere, but I don't see how that starting five is better than it was last year.
Was DeRozan that big move? Would he have made that team a lot better?
It might have helped. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. It's hard to pin down what would have made a lot of sense, and I think I can get behind the front office saying, as frustrated as you may be with fans, let's put together another competitive season and really evaluate where this team is. I mean, we're looking at two real competitive seasons, one of which was COVID and one of them which was post-COVID, kind of, or
Neither of which had Jaren Jackson.
neither of which had Jaren Jackson. It's such a hard team to evaluate where they're at, and so, and I forget also that they brought in a couple of veterans, like I was saying earlier. So we've got Steven Adams there now, which could help in that area. Drew Bledsoe. I've done that for his entire 10-year career. Eric Bledsoe's in there, who it will play some quality minutes and make a difference on that team, but I don't know about from a leadership gelling standpoint, which frankly it seems like is somebody that we need on the Grizz. I mean, they made a move that may have filled in some gaps that you could speculate that the front office was seeing. But I mean, if I look at that team, I don't see a gap.
I'll tell you who's out there for him right now.
Glaring one.
Andre Iguodala is a free agent again.
Just don't get Rondo.
Oh gosh, I know.
I don't think Dylan Brooks and John Morant are welcoming Iggy back anytime soon.
No way, man. No way. Dylan Brooks,
John
though,
Morant,
man.
it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting year. You're going to sell tickets. Like, that's just John Morant factor right
Yep.
there. Like,
But you talked about, is DeRozan a different maker? Let's shift it over to the East. Where do you see teams like the Bulls, like the New York Knicks, after their moves? I kind of feel like they might have put themselves in the Eastern Conference version of where the Grizz are now. Like, all right, you're a playoff team now, but, I mean, I'm not scared of that Chicago team, even after their big free agency moves. I'm not really scared of the Knicks team, as much as I hate to say that, adding Kemba Walker and basically bringing the band back together besides that. Evan Fournier. Best player on the court in the Olympics.
That makes a big difference. When we talked about the Olympics being the gap between the U.S. and every other team really closing in, and that's a great example of it. So him being one of the best players on the court there speaks volumes at this point.
I don't think the Bucks and Nets are sweating them, though. But what about? Hey,
I want to hear that,
about
Tim.
the
I want to know
Sixers?
where you were going there, man.
The Knicks, it's a whole new starting backcourt.
Yeah,
I mean, you have Kemba, major upgrade over Peyton.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Fournier, go get a bucket.
Yep.
He's that guy. If he's hot, he can be streaky, but if he's, that's go get a bucket. You needed that scoring. You needed
You
somebody.
don't think RJ is going to be that guy?
RJ is somebody every team wants on your team. I don't think he's ever going to be the go get a bucket guy. I don't think so. He could have good games here and there, score 30, but he's not the guy that you want at the end of the game with the ball in his hand. You want him on your team. He's going to rebound. He's going to play defense. He's going to pass. He's going to play hard. RJ, you want him on. Every team wants him, not as the scorer that you need. So to get scoring,
Julius Randle still there.
No, play through him absolutely. Like
But
D
now you got
Rose
a real point guard too.
D Rose can still come off the bench quickly. Can fall more off the ball now. He could be more of a shooting guard, which is where his skill set is. I like it.
I think they improved, but I don't think they're scaring the Nets and the Bucks yet.
Yeah, but could they have? Who could have they have? DeRozan I think is better than Fournier. I'd rather have DeRozan than Fournier, but Dame time. Yeah, well,
that'd be a slam dunk. How cool would it be to have Dame in New York too, man? Yeah. That would just be so flashy and beautiful. But I agree with what you just said, Drew, though, which I think sums it up. They upgraded. That was a team that was hot for a while last year, and I got to look at they won a playoff series, right?
No, they did
not.
No,
they did not.
They were a 4 seed though. They had home court, but they lost
4 seed. That's right. Sorry for the false hope there, guys.
Trey got hot, took over MSG.
Yeah. So they're definitively, if you're a 4 seed, right, you expect to be in the playoffs. You can't say you're the Grizzlies expecting to eke into the playoffs at this point.
Right.
That is a team that needs to finish mid-tier and move up. And if they did and they improved a little bit, you got to think that they're competing there. Now, that said, they're still not in that top 3 tier of any of those teams that could wind up being a number 1 seed in my opinion. But it depends on how they gel. That could be a big mistake for them not to fear the Knicks, because you saw what happened when you didn't fear the Knicks last year and they came out. And if they come out with that kind of fervor and Tibbs winds up being the guy who can shepherd all of that like he did last year, which was really impressive, and Julius Randle comes out of nowhere again and raises his game, those are all things you can bet on. And if you have a similar kind of jump as last year, that team is formidable.
That's what we hope.
Yeah.
But Tibbs teams don't really seem to get better over time with him there. He's got an expiration date with most of his teams, it seems like. But it shouldn't be year 2. And it shouldn't be with all these fresh faces. And he's got his guys on his team, too. They gave $43 million to Derrick Rose to be their backup point guard.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Taj Gibson hanging around. Yep.
Maybe that could explain the draft, because I can't figure out how to explain what the Knicks did in the draft. But maybe Tibbs just didn't want to really add anybody to the team. I want to kind of keep what we built here, bring in some veterans, and go from there. Maybe he just didn't want rookies. He's notorious for that, not playing rookies.
Obi knows that.
Yeah.
Obi's gonna have a big year. Obi's gonna have a huge year backing up Randall this year.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, you get your second-year players and third-year players kind of growing into it, and you don't know where they could be. It's always been a hard read. You're right with Tibbs to figure out how these guys are going to progress on the court, because you're not seeing their development as evidently. So that could be a surprise for the Knicks as well. You also hope that Tibbs has learned some over his career, right, about being a better coach, because he's been on the cusp in a lot of different ways, but he's got to figure out a way to get over it. And I similar to Phoenix's coach and Chris Paul, those guys working together again. There's some magic in getting the band back together and really evaluating, especially with really smart guys like Derrick Rose, who can help you figure out the direction to go and player coach. I mean, that's something. You go back to the Lakers. Lakers aren't going to have that. LeBron player coaches, but they're not going to have that kind of relationship with Frank Vogel and throughout that team. But the Knicks do, and that's the kind of variable that really can lead you further than maybe expectations had you.
You want to talk some more Knicks while we got you here?
I think that was so well said. I love that. I mean, that was spot on. I mean, Kemba, New York City guy, back to the Garden. That's exciting too. He went to Rice High School in the Bronx. He's a New York City guy through and through. And to have a guy that grew up in New York City, dominating New York City high school basketball, AAU basketball, playing at Madison Square Garden, that's a pretty cool note right there.
With something to prove.
Yes.
After the last 2 seasons.
Right. He's going to be so motivated, and he's not Chris Paul's age. He's not he's not a young player anymore, but he's still. I think he's got a lot to prove, a lot to play for, and he's not top 10 point guard in the league probably right now, but he's a guy you want on your team in New York City at the Garden. New York City guy with something to prove. I love it.
It's a big upgrade on Elfrid Payton.
Right.
Huge.
Yeah,
regardless.
Absolutely.
He was a top 10 point guard just a couple years ago. He was emerging and an incredible scorer. And you're right, if he proves that and he jumps back in and the Knicks don't live up to their former kind of perception of being a place where some guys go to die, and they actually can be reinvigorated like we saw with some players last year, like we've seen with Derrick Rose, this is this is the right place for him, and he could be an all-star again. He really, really could, as long as he recovers well enough and has the right system. So I love that. I love that pickup. I think Kemba's one of the brighter players in the league. Honestly, it's just the right setup and whether he can heal up.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
But let's. I want to get into what I think is a big story here. We talked about the Bucks. They're the Bucks. Fine. The Nets. I mean, they lost Spencer Dinwiddie, who wasn't playing for them anyways. They're hopefully going to get healthy this year, and then they've also, I feel like they've made some good moves around the fringes. So that's another team that's going to be there at the top no matter what.
No doubt.
By the time the season's done, the talent on that team again is just insane. We never saw them fully armed and operational last season. But the Sixers, they still have to trade Ben Simmons, right? He can't come back after last season. I thought there was absolutely no way that he could come back to Philadelphia after the playoffs last year. But what we're hearing is, they're asking the Paul Pierce-Garnett package for him back. And there's no chance in hell they're getting that. So does he come back to the Sixers?
I mean,
can't, right?
Outlook.
He's going to crucify him the first time he passes up a shot.
Yeah, fans have short memories to some degree. It's
win.
you got to think that that's what the front office is betting on, right? Is like, this guy should be better than he was, and so he needs to be, or else we're all crucified. I don't know, like just betting on the fact that he can do that, because boy, it's got to be painful to give up the value that you're perceiving, which could be their fatal flaw, right? Their perceived value of him. Clearly it is with what they're asking in trade packages. When he's got that potential still. I don't know. I disagree with it, but I totally get why they're hanging on to him and why they would potentially want to run one more year back. But that's not gosh, that team is just blown up if they can't do something next year and he fails. Like the Sixers aren't even on the radar after that.
I don't think you have to trade him. I don't see that. I mean, it's Embiid's team. You have to do that, but you still have to have somebody facilitate and get Embiid the ball. Simmons is a great facilitator. He's the guy that you want.
True.
Like, you
He
don't
does
want him
fill
on
a
the free
gap.
throw line. You don't want him shooting. Obviously.
That's not a good basketball player.
Yes, it's a good guy you want on your team.
He plays great defense. I mean, if you really, I actually love that perspective, Tim. Like, it's so obvious how shitty and frustrating his shooting is. Like, that's enough for Philadelphia fans to crucify. It's enough for the whole nation to really talk shit about the guy as much as we did, and it was warranted. But he distributes. He's a big body in there, and he plays really good defense, elite defense by all measures. So that is something that he's bringing to the table that is hard to give up. And if they can offset that, which they have the talent to do to some degree, then maybe that's worth it. I mean, I guess you're right. We shouldn't look past the value that he brings there. That's definitely part of the equation.
You just described Giannis. Right? Pretty bad shooter, right? Not a terrible free throw shooter unless it's the last game where he makes every one. But
Too soon. I know. Sorry.
I know.
but they figured that
forgot.
out. Giannis is a terrible 3-point shooter. He's a bad shooter outside of the paint, right? But it was back-to-back MVPs. He was a champion this year, defensive player of the year. Like, Simmons is somebody you want on your team.
There's
Simmons
truth.
is 25 years old.
Yes.
It's the biggest thing. He's 25 years old. He's what, all NBA 3 times already?
Yeah. I'm not saying he's Giannis. I'm
these
saying a
guys-
lot of similarities.
I was gonna say, there's
that's a
50
fair
points
point.
to 6 points gap there per game, but still,
These guys aren't available at 25 years old.
And
so
the
they're
draft
right to
equity.
ask for a big return.
yeah.
But at what point do you have to say, like, again, not that we know these are out there, but we've had a full offseason of Ben Simmons rumors already.
Yeah.
At what point do you say, maybe we would be better with CJ McCollum and 2 firsts or something?
Maybe after next year. I think it's arguably now. It's just really hard. But we can't forget that they sunk the draft equity into him as well, and that's something for their fans to crucify him for. Also,
Markelle Fultz isn't on that team anymore either.
That's true. And maybe I don't know the sentiment in Philadelphia, but the rebuild, the oh my gosh, why am I blanking on it? The plan, the
The process.
The process. My gosh.
It's over. The process is done.
It is, but all those
Process,
drafts,
sure.
and so many of them they let go and moved on, and I think there's some where even like Nerlens Noel is showing some promise, never living up to where he was before. But those kind of players, like maybe the Philadelphia's burnt out on churning through these players and only having so little to show for what they went through that they want this one thing to pan out in addition to Joel Embiid. I don't know. I'm just making up narratives now, but
Yeah. I think at this point, Joel Embiid is the process. You surround him with whatever he needs to win.
Yeah.
If you're Philadelphia, and if that's not Ben Simmons, that's not Ben Simmons.
But you can't settle on a package for Simmons. You can't just say, "Oh, he had a bad couple of playoff games, and we'll take something less than what we think he's."
They've been underachieving every season.
Yeah, but not Simmons' fault completely. It's not like
CJ McCollum's pretty good though.
Yeah, McCollum's real good.
You got Seth Curry to make shots. I mean, you need somebody to do everything else.
Just think of that. All the gravity that Embiid pulls towards him, and then you got Seth and CJ on the perimeter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danny Green still there?
Yeah,
He's still putting around.
they do need
Surround
somebody
yourself with
like
shooting.
that though.
I like that.
They do need some shooters though. Still, I mean, I don't know. It's that's going to be a weird team next year, and they're running out of time. I think is my big takeaway there. So, whatever it is, they're betting on having a run to the finals, if not a championship this year, or we're going to see some major changes in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but what big moves are still out there? DeRozan went to the Bulls. Again, we've barely talked about them because that team still doesn't really move the radar for me. DeRozan, to me, just kind of seems like a less athletic Zach LaVine light type player anyway.
They have all shooting guards.
Yeah,
I guess
Alonzo
they're going
Ball.
positionless basketball. But
Even
it's-
Vucevic isn't playing inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a unique team. I do like the Lonzo Ball signing, though. I mean, as much as I'm annoyed by the Balls in general,
And they just drafted Kobe White, but he's a bench guy, I guess.
that's true.
A lot of guards.
That Lonzo could wind up being a centerpiece there, and that's what Chicago kind of needs. I mean, they need. I mean, they've got Zach LaVine, that's true, but they need somebody like Lonzo who's primed for a breakout. I mean, he was really playing well last year, and ultimately, I think he's underrated in the league right now. So they probably got good value for him. Still, that team is just unbalanced, and I don't see them making that playoff jump that you were asking about, Drew. I really don't. I can see them having some
Playoff
competitive
team,
game,
not title contender.
and barely a playoff. I'm talking like play in, eighth seed kind of a team right now. But
And in the East, ouch.
I know. Well, the East has got depth now.
You're going to have the Lonzo and LaMelo playing game.
Oh, that'd
That's
be
probably
fun.
true. Yeah.
When we're talking about that now, and Alonzo being in the news, just got to ask, have you seen any Big Baller shoes anywhere? Big Baller brand?
Besides the
I've
four
been missing
pair,
out on the Big Baller brand stuff for a while now.
I got 4 in my closet, but no, I have not. I did see a Big Baller shirt the other day. I can't remember where.
Yeah,
But-
was it on LeVar Ball? Because I
No.
think that's the only place I've seen one.
It was at Goodwill. That's where it was. No,
Hey, got him.
I know.
Nice.
But if I saw one at Goodwill, I'd buy that shit. I would. I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Speaking of the East, I mean, are the Heat not one of the big movers this
Absolutely.
offseason though? Like, that
We all
team,
forget that they were in the championship last season. I mean, it was the bubble. Yeah,
it was, and a playoff team this last year.
and yeah, they've got kind of a very Heat-like core right now too. That's how it feels to me. Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo. But then I can't see how you give $90 million to Duncan Robinson. It's a nice story, the undrafted free agent getting paid, but this was a guy who couldn't even play in the playoffs last year.
Yeah. Yeah, the money there just
Shooter?
doesn't make a lot of sense, but they really balanced. They brought a lot of talent in there, and they kept Oladipo and surrounded everybody with PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris rebounding and defense and shooters
That's
around the
right.
perimeter. And I mean, they've got every type of player on that team that a team needs to succeed. Like role wise, there is no gap there. And
I think it's
that's
fair to
scary.
put them in the top tier of the East for sure.
I agree.
I'm almost upset I kind of forgot about them right now. Now I'm remembering how much I dislike the Heat. Yeah, they have a solid roster. Really,
It just feels like an old school Heat team to me now, which is what I kind of like, and also kind of fear.
Yeah.
Alonzo Mourning.
Them to slow this thing down and
Agreed.
just play a bully ball type of basketball. PJ Tucker, absolutely perfect for them.
Totally. Totally.
And yeah, it's. I mean, I honestly forgot about Oladipo before you said it too. If he can get back to 75% of what he used to be, that's a scary option.
They lost Kendrick Nunn though, right? So who's the backup point guard? That's Kyle Lowry's running that. He's the guy to do that. But Nunn, he was, kind of microwave scorer. Go in there, get some buckets. Bench is so important. Basketball, NBA, how the NBA is now, the bench, so wildly important.
It is, especially for a playoff run. I mean, it's
so you get to the finals.
To really get in there. Well, until the finals, but that's how you
play 40 minutes.
That's how you get to the finals. And I actually want to go back to one thing you said earlier, Tim, about Westbrook being coming off the bench. I mean, that'll never the fuck happen. Pardon my French, but
egos are
yeah. But he's perfect for that. Can you imagine him leading your B squad and coming off and just lighting everything on fire? I always wonder why teams. I mean, I know why, right? But why it's not experimented with just a little bit more. Taking one of those surplus stars, if you have them, or somebody who's on the border, and putting him and having him lead the B squad. It's just
you always talk about that, staggering your stars minutes.
Yeah,
but the reality is the NBA is a star league, obviously, and if you have one of those teams that has enough stars that you can't afford not to start one, you expect to be a finals team.
Yes.
If you've got that level of star power that you can afford not to start one, you expect to be in the finals conversation. Any of those teams with big threes are teams we talk about as finals teams.
True.
And then if you get to there, you're not on the bench. Your star's not on the bench in the finals, Your best players are playing 40 minutes every game. So you can't just, I don't know. You got to make sure you know how they can play together as well. But yeah, I would love to see a Westbrook just coming in and basically playing street ball on a second unit.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Fair point. I mean, the Nets are the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Kyrie off the bench, just go do Kyrie. Like he would, he'd probably average 40 a game, just go score every time,
Yeah, but then when you get to the last couple rounds, if you're leaving Kyrie on the bench, the sports media's going to light you on fire.
Just to start. Not that they're never going to play together on the court. But I totally understand your point.
It's really interesting because I don't think it's, even though I know it's perceived this way, right? It's not. I don't get the whole starting focus because it used to be that way, right? Like there was a
Ever
big
since
gap.
Alan Parsons and Sirius for the Chicago Bulls, you need to be in that starting lineup.
That's true. Well, you're right. You get there are those things. That's a really great point. That you of course you want to be part of that, but. And by the way, they did Alan Parsons at the Suns arena too. I just want you to know that.
They were first, right?
They were. I mean, I don't know by definition. No. But there are so many smart lineups out there. I mean, you see all the smart coaches, the best coaches out there know when to go small. They have their small lineup. They have their mid lineup. They have their energy lineup. And it's really, even though I'm talking A and B squads, there really aren't A and B squads anymore. There's 7 different lineups, and it's based on, it's matchup based and based on what kind of energy you want. Of course, adaptation of fouls and game situations and such. But I don't understand why you've got to bet on playing 5 guys as much as you can through the finals if you've got really smart rotation through. Of course, you limit your lineups more in that time, but fine, have a guy come off the bench. But like you said, Tim, play just as many minutes. But have it at the right time and be thoughtful about it and experiment throughout the season. It seems ripe for this statistical basketball kind of thing to figure out what right combination there is to play and play it at the right time and just bet on that going through there. You don't see as much of that. There's still so much star ball, which I can't fully argue with, but I feel like there's untapped potential in just playing to having the right players on the court at the right time throughout the entire game rather than just maximized 5 individuals.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, just look at the Bucks last season winning the championship. Bobby Portis barely played in the series before it.
True.
And becomes a clutch member of the team in the finals.
You do see that a lot.
Playing big minutes, just matchups. You do need that depth, but you're still, again, when you find it, Well, and you're talking Hamptons lineup or Death lineup or any of these fun things that we get.
Yeah.
When you find that, those guys are on the court.
Yes. Yep. That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, the Heat will potentially struggle with that. I'm not sure. They've got a lot of depth going on. But, one thing I always like to mention, you guys are probably tired of hearing this about the Heat, just like I am. But as I've watched, the Grizz build and the Suns build, and I'm really curious. And as I've saw my teams lose to the San Antonio Spurs a bajillion times, I'm very focused on, like, how do you build this culture that can be sustainable and really allow for a player like Westbrook to come in, like we're doing in LA, and actually thrive. And I feel like the Heat have figured out how to do that with Spoelstra at the helm and Pat Riley. Yeah, I know. All that sunshine. Hey, we have that much sunshine.
Miami in the winter.
I know. There's truth to that. But I mean, how do you get there? And the Heat are the exemplars of that, in my opinion.
Are these Heat signings? Are they saying how we're trying to match up? How do we beat the Bucks or the Nets or the Sixers to a lesser degree? Are they make these the PJ Tucker? Is he somebody that is specifically going to match up well against the Bucks, or the Nets? Is that what they're making these signings for? Are they they have enough?
You can afford to do that when you already have the talent on your team.
You have
can
enough
fill it out with specialists.
Yeah, you could forget that you're a playoff team, right? You could forget regular season to an extent, right? We're building this team to beat this other team.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, is there a player-to-player matchup? I mean, you got to think that those two teams are big, right? Of Philadelphia and Milwaukee, and so they've definitely got big bodies that can play small fives and stretch fives and but also be big shooting guards if they need to, depending on how they're putting the roster together and get boards. I mean, and lockdown defend. It's really they're getting multi-tool players all across the board, which I think is what's most impressive about who they've signed, and they have the depth to go along with that.
Bam.
Yeah, Bam's the closest.
Not traditional in Shaq sense, but he's.
Yeah, and then what's behind him? I mean, you can definitely win that way. We've seen that plenty of times in the modern NBA, which makes a team like the Cavs giving out huge money to re-sign Jarrett Allen and drafting Evan Mobley. Kind of a fun little anachronism almost when you got going back to a Twin Towers type of basketball. See how that works out for you, Cleveland. But
that's a good point, though. Center-wise, maybe that's what they're building around, is like just having big enough depth to match up and maybe overwhelm a team without having that, because no, they don't. They certainly have a big presence in the middle with Bam. I mean, that guy still clogs the lane.
Physical dudes.
Yeah.
I think Udonis Haslem is still there, right?
He's 60 now.
Honestly, it's a fair bet. I'm checking. I don't think so, but we're not far removed. Yeah.
All right, man. So we're here on vacation, chilling out in this beautiful location in North Carolina, drinking Bearwater Brewing Company from right down the street. This is their On the DL for our sports show.
All right. So, I like it.
On the DL American Lager. There you go. From the finest spring waters in North Carolina. Smoky Mountains down the street.
I love the stubby bottle, too.
Another Bearwater? Not Bear Walker, which we're very familiar
I know.
with.
That's what I keep thinking of every time.
I do not own the rights to any Grateful Dead lookalikes here. This is a Bearwater, same brewing company. Mountain Mojo Lager with a hint of mango flavor in it. So
that sounds really nice.
Good stuff.
I'm heading to the beach next week, I think. Going to do a weekend at out near San Diego, and
nice.
That is the beer that I want with me right there, honestly. So I'm so jealous and happy that you guys are out there doing that, because that part of the country is just. I mean, I know Asheville itself at one point more breweries per capita than anywhere in the nation, and it's a mecca, and it extends beyond that city center. So I'm glad you guys are finding some good beers.
We were looking for we had those Asheville beers here too, but
good.
Yeah, we happened to find something right down the street from where we're at. So
I love it.
Or right down the mountain more accurately.
Just take the e-brake off and roll.
Just right there, right to the front door of
Bearwater. Kicking back. It's a nice time. Good to see some family and be here get together. We get some cameos from our parents here. Mom, get in here.
They're running around.
That's awesome. I'm glad I could join you guys from a distance, at least here. I am not. I'm going to play basketball tonight, so I decided not to drink a beer. So I've got some coffee just to keep me going, so I don't fall asleep. So I'm playing late tonight.
Polar Bears getting back in action.
I was telling my buddy that I play with that when I show up at the court and I see that there's not somebody running 5-on-5 full court next there, like right next to us, I just breathe a sigh of relief. I'm like, thank God I don't have to try to get in on that game and see, can we play? Because we feel obliged when we show up there, and then I just get run the half over, man.
It's half court now.
Well, now
I'm a half court player too.
Yeah, 3-on-3 tournaments.
I'm almost exclusively a horse player now. that's how sad my basketball life is. But I'm trying to work back into it. So, yeah. Although it's going to be 110 degrees at 9:00 tonight, so I'm not looking forward to that. But, yep.
Good luck, buddy.
I know, guys. Well,
Then just some of this mountain air if we could.
I'm feeling it.
What else you got for us tonight? Give me some Olympic moments that have been pretty striking for you. I'll say I loved the sprinting, the fastest men and women. The Jamaica sweeping the 100-meter finals, all 3 medal positions from Jamaica, and then the gold medalist going on. The mommy racer or whatever her hashtag is,
I love
going
that.
out there and winning the 200
Allison
too.
Felix.
Yep.
First,
Did you see
the
her
Jamaican one.
come up at the end?
yeah.
Allison Felix was incredible though too, making that last stretch run. To my favorite has been
200, matching Usain Bolt as repeating. Jamaica, man,
they're good.
runners, amazing.
It's
Cool to see. But the fastest man in the world right now is an Italian born in Texas.
I don't even know what to say about that. I love that though.
Congratulations, that's what I say.
Yep, you say congratulations. It is always incredible to me to see the fastest people beat each other. And to see by such gaps, to see Allison Felix just chase down second or third place, or second place, and then third place, and then first place. My gosh, in that last stretch, to be able to turn on those burners against the best, and we saw that. My favorite moment was Sydney McLaughlin. I never know exactly.
She's
how to say her name.
incredible.
Doing the hurdles, which by the way, the hurdles. How do you even do that? I can barely even run straight without being worried about falling, much less actually
Come to a
plan.
full stop and climb over this.
Yeah, exactly. It blows my mind. But she, in the gold medal race, won on that stretch. And to have a stretch going over the hurdles just blows my mind as well. Set a world record in the semis and then beat her own world record in the finals for gold. Come on, man. We're seeing the best of the best out there. And that's what's so cool about it. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
The sprinting it's the purest form of competition ever.
True.
I think they should run barefoot. We don't need any equipment. Just line up next to each other and see who is faster.
I agree.
It's the purest form of competition. Let's go race. Let's see who's the best in the world at this. That's pretty cool. It's saying something.
Yeah, it's as close
cool.
as you can get. I think we should do gazelle hunting, where we have to chase down a gazelle on our feet, and that's
Human
it.
greyhound racing.
Yeah, I know. So I think that's a great point, Tim. Man, I love the individual competitions for that reason, and most of what we watch individual competition wise, frankly, well, I'm not speaking for you, Drew. I guess I watch golf. But,
You're not speaking for me.
But I know what else. What else do we watch normally?
Unless it's Topgolf.
That have those. I think I beat you at that. That's because I watch more golf, Drew. We're on here talking about sports all the time. The 3 of us dudes are watching sports all the time. We're not watching those kinds of competitions almost ever, maybe. And so it's so cool to be able to see it. I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I need more of that in my life. I don't know if I'll seek it out, but I love watching those individual straight-up competitions. It's one of the more exciting things in sports.
You get into swimming and watch Caleb Dressel bring home 5 golds in 1 Olympics.
Katie Ledecky, some good stuff out there.
Incredible. But hey, we were talking about super teams before. Big threes. What about like a big nine? The U.S. Men's basketball team getting hot at the right time, and the women's basketball team both got off to kind of slow starts, but seem to have found their groove now that we're in the knockout games. Took down the nemesis in Spain for the men.
Huge.
The women's already got past Australia. Australia's up next for the men's team, who just lost to them when Patty Mills caught fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patty Mills is on the Nets now.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I think it's crazy that all these guys are signing contracts while they're playing basketball in Tokyo also.
Yeah.
Right. Do they have input in that, or is their agent just completely taking it from them? Or are they saying
Hell of a tough time change to coordinate.
Yeah,
For sure. I mean, you got to think that they at least gave intentions and parameters before they left. But I spent a lot of time thinking about that today. Like, how, that's got to be a pain in the ass to be doing that from Tokyo. But, I'm glad to see those teams gelling because they're truly super teams. And knowing that, I know we're going to have good competition throughout the rest of this, though. Just like we've talked with that gap being closed between the world and the U.S. in terms of talent. There are a lot of great games to be seen, but that men's team, the depth on that women's team is insane too. But the men's team has taken a long time to gel, and I think we've forgotten a little bit how hard it must be to, we joked about Drew and Chris and Devin getting off the plane, at midnight and then showing up for the game the next day. But like that takes a toll, and a context switch from the playoffs to Tokyo to these different coaching to different schemes, that's insanely hard. So playing a late NBA season, of course it takes a while to gel. And plus these guys, I know they know each other really well, but they're not used to playing with each other. They have their own hang-ups with each other. So you got to get over that too. It's tough. Do I hear crickets too?
It's starting to get a little bit dark here.
Yeah,
I like
know
it.
you can't tell from this massive glow over here.
No, I love it.
But-
Well, I have truly felt like I've been sitting on the porch with you guys, and it is the respite that I needed. So thanks for doing this. This is a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again while y'all are out there.
Hey, good to see you, man. Well, unfortunately, this vacation doesn't last forever, and we'll be. Fortunately for our listeners, we'll be back in town in time for the show on Sunday. So we'll be there on WXNA as always every week, having some good time there.
Heck yeah.
But until then, we'll just be kicking back and rocking over here. So,
Well,
cheers, buddy. Good to see you.
here's to you.
Glad this worked out.
Good to see you guys.
guys?
Enjoy
I appreciate
yourselves,
you guys
all right?
having me on. I really enjoy talking sports with you. So much appreciated.
Thanks for joining, Tim. It was fun. Y'all have fun, all right?
Good times. Thanks, man.
See ya.